We've got the dream team up here for a good yarn today. David, going to go firstly to you. Hello, everybody, brothers. To you, David, between the three of you here, there's 801 AFL games, 789 goals, 3 premierships, so some pretty deadly talent on this panel today.
Yeah, it is. I spent a lot of time watching Cookie when I first came over here with East Perth, when I first got drafted to West Coast, and started to build that relationship, trying to chase him around with Perth Footy Club in the early days, and obviously Jets, watching his transition going to Sydney, then back at West Coast, and sitting with my old brother boy, who I enjoy kicking the footy to down the forward pocket in Phil Matera. So there is a lot of talent, and just to be in that footy circle over the years and share a lot of those experiences has been a good thing to have.
All right, now Sir Doug Nicholls round is starting next weekend, my favourite time of the year. I love checking out all the jerseys and all the talent around Australia. So the AFL theme this year is Forged by First Nations. How important is it that we acknowledge the history and heritage of our great First Nations players? Troy?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's going to be an amazing round again this year. I mean, the AFL does a great job in celebrating Aboriginal culture and history, and to be a part of that is going to be amazing again. Over the years to be lucky enough to play, I feel a bit out of place up here. I don't know actually why I got the invite, to be honest, but it's great to be involved in a round that celebrates obviously the current players as well. But also, those amazing forefathers, I suppose, and people who set the way to make it easier for the group at the moment. So it's going to be an amazing round, and it's great to see Crystal's artwork on the jumper today. That's awesome as well. I was lucky enough to be involved in creating a jumper at Fremantle, and to see it come to life. I'll hold that close to my heart as well.
Yeah. Lovely. We're seeing some deadly player highlights there. As we see some of the highlights of all of your glittering careers on the screen now, and you're definitely not out of place, don't say that. What were some of the challenges and also the highlights that you cherish from your careers, Lewis?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Probably just the highlight would be after a footy game, coming in and seeing my 2 kids there, just smiling, being themselves. Footy's going to be a footy. You're going to enjoy it, but there's nothing more beautiful and nothing more blessing than having your 2 children waiting in your change rooms. Because as we know, life is hard, but once you have those 2 little buggers around, it's pretty special.
Phil?
Oh, look, I just think, growing up in the 80s with my brothers at South Fremantle, and some of the Indigenous players that were playing back then, and Basil Campbell and Morris Rioli and Stephen Michaels and Nicky Winmar and all my brothers, and as a kid watching Jimmy and Phil Cracken play for North Melbourne, and this weekend or this game coming up in a few weeks' time is just a celebration of that whole culture and what they paved the way for us beforehand, and look at the way things are now. We've got a jumper that represents the culture and the actual day for that weekend. So looking in, it's great. And the history behind the Aboriginal players that have played in the AFL, you could go on forever, but there's some superstar players that have played before us and will play beyond us, but it's been terrific to watch. What
about you, David?
Yeah, I've got a pretty close alliance with the Sir Doug Nicholls round, being him my great uncle, and being a proud Briggs family all the way from Shepparton, Cumragunja Mission, where the history and the story was told and created from my uncle then. So to see that being recognised, but also, like Phil said, all those past Indigenous players that came in really did have an impact on us as future players, and we've done the same to carry that journey as well. So to see that being heavily recognised through the AFL, and they've done a terrific job over the last 20 years, and each club now is kind of following that lead to be able to do that with their Indigenous players. And it's a good form of expression, and letting, I suppose, a lot of people out there and supporters understand the importance of our cultural heritage, and utilising sport as a vehicle to be able to deliver that to to people who really don't have a good understanding of that and the importance of our culture to show that. So to be able to chase the ball around and do that and share that and express that is a very easy and wonderful thing from our point of view, but to be able to express yourself in that is pretty important.
Yeah. And, we've talked about some of the highlights, of course. What about some of the challenges from your career?
Yeah, well, I'm from Carnarvon originally, and been able to sort of navigate my way through, leaving home, family and friends, moving down to Perth. We didn't really know anyone really, and then on my journey, and probably Lewis as well, we are going over to Sydney. Coming from Carnarvon, playing a couple of hundred people to nearly 50,000 people. It's pretty scary at times. But you're there for a reason. Trying to carve out a career playing football and really surviving. At the time. But been able to play a few games, earn a bit of respect in the in the AFL community as well, but also representing where you come from, and always proud of and never forget where you're from, and being able to share my journey with the rest of my family and friends that I'm pretty close with. But it was tough. Yeah, you got to sacrifices that probably not many people see behind the scenes, where you're homesick and crying by yourself in your room to celebrating those amazing wins and sort of having a bit of fun along the way, chasing a football. But it is tough. let me tell you.
Troy, back to you. You were a docker, of course, but now you're working next door at the Wirrpanda Foundation. Previously, the Wirrpanda Foundation. Tell us a bit about your role there.
Yeah, so I'm a general manager of community development there. Yeah, and a long time ago, when David, Lisa, and myself. And also with the West Coast Eagles started up the Wirrpanda Foundation back then, and to change the name, and the Wirrpanda Foundation is going from strength to strength from those really strong foundations and the people involved. We support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people through education, employment, justice, and business programs. We're an open door policy at our foundation. No matter who you are, where you're from, if we can support you through our programs, and that's why we exist. We're lucky enough to be an entity of West Coast and the support that this great club gives the foundation, and for us to have the ability to guide someone on their journey, it's pretty lucky, I think.
Sweet, thank you. Now, Phil, you've recently been inducted to the West Coast Eagles Hall of Fame, proper Murich. What does that honour mean to you?
Oh, look, it was obviously a great evening. My brother's also a Hall of Famer, so that's pretty special. There's some awesome players that are in the Hall of Fame. I've been at this club. My family name's been here since the first bounce that happened here back at Subi. Wally, my older brother, was a part of this family from day one, and we've been, the Matera name's been synonymous with this club for a long time, and we've, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and the club, stole that privilege on me. I was pretty excited, and something my children were, I always told them I was a Hall of Famer, and I still tell them today, but now I can actually say it. But it's pretty exciting, and I was very thankful for the club for doing it for me.
I mean, you already have an oval named after you in Wagen, right?
Matera Oval, that's right. So we're, it's actually quite funny. I've just written a book about my parents. I've written a book about how my parents came together, an Italian man and a Noongar woman, and it goes right back to the days. But my dad's from a famous town in Italy called Matera, and he came out here by himself with no brothers or sisters and no parents. Came on his own, and in the end, the Matera name became really famous in not just Western Australia, but Australian football, and the local Wagen Shire named the oval Matera Oval. So it was quite exciting, and something that we'll remember forever.
Lewis, you've been playing some local footy with your brothers up in High Wycombe. How's that been going for you?
Well, nothing's changed from the last time I played my last game at Eagles. I popped 2 calves 2 weeks ago. I'm currently the ruckman, which I'm not that short, not that tall. And then my brother's done his quad, so I looked at him, we're too old for this. Us old bastards, let's just retire. So
I can't believe you didn't pop calves. We don't have calves.
Like Liam said, I didn't even know we had muscles.
It hurt the back of the shin.
We pretend we go into the gym and do weights, but we actually don't. We just go and hide and look in a mirror pretty much. But it's going all right. I've been there since last year. And 4 of my brothers are there. My first cousin, Neville Jetta, is going to come over and have a game with us because his little big brother's there as well as a full forward. So, yeah, I think we got about 7 Jettas in one team, but we're still getting flogged. So I feel your pain. We're still getting smashed by 100 points. But, yeah, it's not about the winning, not about the losing. It's just being around family, having fun, having a kick. But after this, yeah, I reckon hang the boots up or maybe head to the country and play one more season. But, yeah, after that.
Go one more. Now, you've all had great careers at the Eagles. The club has had a tough couple of years. Who's going to chime in now? How quickly do you think things can turn around for the team?
No,
Let's hope very quickly. We're getting a bit sick of the way it's going, to be honest. But it's obviously a long journey for the club. It is unfortunate with all the injuries that we had. I thought we looked really well, really good early in the Fremantle game. I would have thought most people that were watching the game and, before the injuries were right in the game. I thought we were a couple of goals down at three-quarter time, and then, the wheels fell off and we lost lots of players. And it has been tough, even as a past player, to watch. We were just talking about it earlier in the green room, how it can be a little bit difficult to watch, not just for us, but obviously all the fans. We're obviously fans as well of the club, but hopefully we'll see some of our senior players get back in and we'll go to the draft again next year and see if we can pick up a few more Jimbies and whoever else might be out there. But I think it's going to be a little bit of time, I would have thought.
Yeah, you can't buy experience. I mean, back in the days when we were kind of still playing, we had really strong leadership at the club, but it was a bit different from the personalities and leaders that we had. I mean, when I first came to West Coast, we had the John Worsfolds, the Glenn Jakovich, the Guy McKennas. So there was a really good transition of leadership. And what it did, it sped our experience up. So you really can't buy experience. And this is just a phase where it is a building process where you're going to have to try and keep those players together, have as many games as possible. They've obviously started at the worst case scenario, so it's just a building process to build that friendship and relationship on the footy oval. And once you get to that stage of success, the best conversation out in the footy field is not saying anything at all, because you absolutely know everyone's ability, everyone's decision making on the ground, and that's going to take a lot of time and process to get through, I think, especially for the young Eagles at this stage.
Yeah, I think Gov touched on it a little bit earlier. It's a lot of injuries, but you can't control that. And the good thing that does happen is opportunity for the young kids to get more games into them under their belt. And the only way they're going to get better is by just keep playing. They might lose a couple more, but as long as they keep playing, get to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, eventually it will come around. But yeah, it's like everyone says, it's still our club. Still support them, still try to be around them, have a chat to them, and just see how they're going and stuff.
Did any of you guys get a call? Did they actually play?
I think Chance Bateman hit me up. Yeah, and then I saw Schofield play, I was like, nah, too old for this now.
You guys saw the First Nations Guernsey unveiled earlier. How deadly to have some of these designs, and we see up on the screen very shortly our first one back in 2014. So just a comment from each of you guys on the great artwork over the years, and now the Guernsey from Crystal Petrescu, which is so beautiful. What do you guys think about it all?
So I'll go first. I mean, I mentioned before, Crystal's artwork is amazing, and I was talking to her earlier about her journey to actually, to bring it to life, and I mentioned about my experience with Fremantle and taking bits and pieces from home and my journey along the way as well. And I can't draw stick figures properly, but being able to engage with an artist from back home, and Crystal being able to lean on her experiences at the club through West Coast and the current and past players, and to see it now is amazing. And for her to experience that it's going to be one that she'll cherish forever.
No, it's just a journey of each Guernsey. It's been amazing. It's just like it gets better every year, and as soon as you work the next following year, it's going to be better again, I reckon. So it's good to see. It's just like a young player. Each year they're getting better and better. It just was a Guernsey as well.
Yeah, it's good for a lot of people from that education process as well. I mean, one of the things is, you know, with Indigenous culture, you don't get to learn that firsthand in especially First Nations culture right across Australia. So using sporting organisations or powerhouses to be able to explain cultural aspects and stories is very important. But it's a massive advantage as well, because obviously a lot of people that have gone through mainstream education haven't had that educated side of Aboriginal history and culture. But that's the beauty about sport. It brings us all together, and from an Indigenous perspective, to be able to express that's very important. So I think it's a wonderful thing, and as we've seen, a lot of players are now using that as a benchmark to express themselves and show who they really are. And it assists all of us young Indigenous players and past players to be able to have a bigger footprint in going to the AFL and showcasing who we are.
Yeah. Phil?
I just think the artwork, the effort that goes into putting the jumpers together, and the thought process and the stories that go with it, but also when you put that jumper on, what you're representing for that game. And I think the AFL and the club especially have done a great. It's a great thing that they've done with this Indigenous round, and I think it's we're all very well supporting it.
Yeah. Definitely some really important points and that you guys all make. Now, the final question for all of you guys, I want to know which mark of the year you prefer from these two First Nation Eagles. Let's have a look.
Getting back long and deep, I think it's Vardy. He now leads up at Kennedy. That's ignored. Liam Ryan saying, kick it my way, I want to jump over the pack, and here he comes! Oh. Ryan! Wow! What about that? He wouldn't have had much gas left in the tank because he was up the ground seconds before that. Had to go back and get it. Staker has kicked 2 in the game so far. Driving ball forward. Oh! Sampi!
That is a contender.
What a lift as we've seen a day of marking today.
Oh, that is Jeff Farmer on some bloke I know. That is one of the best I've ever seen, Brian.
He got the lift and then got the catapult on top of it.
All right, really a tough selection here, guys. So who's your favourite?
I'll go Andrew. I just love Andrew Embley getting sat on from Samps. That's probably my favourite part of that, Mark. No, I think it's very hard to go past Ashley's. I mean, that's a fair jump. I was kind of about 30 metres in front of him, and I can tell you his bottom of his boot would have been over my head. So, and it's just tops it off that Andrew Embley is sitting right underneath, because he's a bit of a loudmouth old embers. No one slaughters the English language more than Andrew. He shouldn't be on radio.
I certainly think it's Samps. I was right there. I had the best seat in the house. I was right behind it. I think I might have been the first one to go up and celebrate it, but I don't know if Samps would get up that high these days. He's looking a bit different than what he used to, but he's been in a good paddock, don't worry. But he's certainly, he was an absolute superstar when it came to a mark and a spring in his step, and I thought that was one of the best marks of the century, to be honest.
Lewis?
It's hard to choose. I was Wirrpanda at the start, just getting jumped on. That just made me laugh. But Maxi Gawn is a pretty tall guy. It's hard to go by, so might have to just do a paper, scissors, rock, and Liam go this way, and yeah, so still a draw. Still a draw. No, they're both incredible jumps, so it's hard to compete.
What's your favourite, Troy?
Is Liam out of the room? At the moment? No.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone? Yeah, no, I'd have to say Samps. It was amazing. And but looking at both of them, I didn't realise how far Liam actually ran to actually get in position there and take a mark. He actually did a fair bit of work. But for Samps to get up as high as he did, got a bit of a lift with it as well. Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
All right, well, everybody please thank these absolute legends on the field and off the field, Lewis Jetta, Troy Cook, Phil Matera and Dave Wirrpanda.